Yeah. 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 Episode of SuperShares. My name is Joe Marquez, Director of Academic Innovation for CUE, and we have a fantastic episode here for you today. Because when we go to our conferences all across, California, not just CUE conferences, but conferences in general, we always hear a lot about the, K3, the primary, or just elementary in general, or secondary, or higher ed. But we do miss out on a subsect of education that we don't talk about a lot, and that's adult education. So we're going to be talking a little bit about adult education and an organization called OTAN. But before we do, I want to make sure. Last week we talked a little bit about the brand new community portal, and we did a walkthrough. So if you missed that SuperShares episode, go back and take a look at it. But we do have our brand new CUE community portal that you can get your free trial membership today. So go to CUE.org, sign up today for free, join the portal. We have forums where you can create questions or groups and get information on anything and everything that you would like. So definitely hop on over. I also want you to know that we are still in the early bird phase of Fall CUE. Yes, you can still get the early bird prize for Fall CUE happening October 22nd and 23rd at Teachers College of San Joaquin. The early bird prize will still be available until June 30th. So sign up today, ask your admin to sign you up today, get that early bird prize because it is the best price that we will be offering. And last thing, because everybody always asks me, Joe, is the call for presenters for Fall CUE over? Did I miss it? No, it's still going on. So call for presenters is still open for Fall CUE. Just go to QLearns.org/fall submit, and you can submit your session for Fall CUE today. Now, a lot of people are like, well, it's too early to submit a session. I don't know. I want to think a little bit. School is ending and a summer's coming. You have until July 18th. To submit. So you don't have to worry about having to put one in this weekend. Definitely take your time, mull it over, think about what you'd like to do and the passions that you have, and then go on over to QLearns.org/fall submit, and you have until July 18th to submit your session. All right. I promised you just a little bit of promos, enough promos. Now what I would like you to do is put your listening ears on, put your thinking cap on, and I want you to think about adult education. So I'd like to bring on my friend Neda. Neda, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience, who you are, what your role is, and then talk a little bit about how you reached out to me and told me a little bit about adult education and how CUE is missing out on those amazing sessions and how we can bring more to our community. So welcome to the show and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Joe. Have I told you that your energy is infectious? Like I feel so pumped and ready to do this share. So hi, everybody. My name is Neda Anasseri. I am the Technology Projects Coordinator for an organization by the name of the Outreach and Technical Assistance Network. We're also known as OTAN. OTAN is a state leadership project that serves adult education educators and administrators along with students with all their ed tech and online learning needs. This includes distance learning, blended learning, high flex, and all the other buzzwords that we know and love in our classrooms. But I wanted to... Yeah.
And I was going to say to the listeners, those words sound very familiar, right? Because that's what we talk about in all education, right? And we're focusing on adult education. And so again, we just really want you to understand that, yes, CUE missed out on that at the conferences. We want to bring more of it to you. And Neda is here to tell us how. But first, could you say how you, why you reached out to me, what you saw or didn't see at Spring CUE and what we're going to be doing to kind of rectify that situation?
Yeah, it's a partnership that really needs to happen because we've been benefiting from CUE and CUE conferences along with CUE sessions throughout the year. Online and in person. Adult ed loves to come to the conferences, loves to learn more, loves to be amongst like-minded educators that want to implement more tech into their classrooms. But we do find sometimes there's a slight disconnect because we're teaching we are teaching adults and others are teaching, K-12 and children sometimes, but we adult educators are really very good about, taking what they learn from our K-12 partners and educators and friends, and then adapting it and changing it to meet our adult learner needs. And so, I mean, we're really creative that way. And I think the benefit from this is, as much as OTAN and OTAN staff, along with our subject matter experts, have been coming and utilizing all the sessions and all the knowledge and learning so much from our fellow K-12 educators, we are, missing not only K-12 educators to know about adult education, but also adult ed educators finding themselves in the conference, right? Finding a place in the conference, from presentations to, potentially those sessions and how they can adapt them to learners of all ages.
Yeah, and I love that because we at CUE we strive on making sure that we hit on every facet of education, right? And it just sometimes feels like we do a lot of K-12, we do a lot of higher ed, but we miss the mark on adult education. And maybe our listeners might not really identify what is adult education, what is defined as adult education. So you created a great graphic for us. I'd love for you to walk us through this, and give us the resources and everything through this graphic that we are going to share. So there it is. The floor is yours.
Wonderful. And thank you again for having us. I wanted to take this chance and this opportunity to really help you understand who adult education is. And like, Joe was saying, we know who our K-12 students are. We know who our community college and higher ed students are. But there's a small little gap in between that, you'll find through my presentation, that there are your students within your districts as well. And so that's the goal of today, is to really understand who adult education is, who are those learners, and so on. So this graphic will help you kind of guide you. I know it's probably a little text heavy. I won't be reading it to you, but I do want to take this time to kind of show you a little bit more about who the adult learner is. Adult learners are anybody over the age of 18. Sometimes there are students that are under 18, anywhere between 16 and 17 years old, that can utilize adult ed services, but that is a very rare case. Most of the time, there are students over the age of 18 that are either still seeking a high school diploma. Life happens to many of us. We ourselves are adult learners, correct? So when life happens, sometimes you can't continue high school, you can't finish all your credits. And so adult education is there for those students that want to finish up their high school diploma, and or if they are too far behind, they still have the opportunity to get something called an equivalency, a high school equivalency. And many of you probably know that as the GED. The GED is the brand name, but really what the students were actually getting is a high school equivalency, an equivalent to a high school diploma. So in adult education, we provide those classes, resources, preparation so that they can take those high school equivalency exams so that they can earn an equivalent to a high school diploma. In addition to that, of course, they complete their credits if they're, still needing, those 5 credits of econ, or those 5 credits in government, or whatever it is that they need. Sometimes more than just 5 credits or 10 credits. Sometimes they need a little bit more. They still have that opportunity to do that in adult education. We serve K-12 parents. When you think about over 18, I'd love for you to think about who that means. That means your K-12 students, right? The students you have in your classrooms. It could be their parents, it could be their grandparents, their siblings, their neighbors, their neighbors who are immigrants and or visitors of the U.S. Those are all adult ed students. Those are your community members, right? And so, in addition to the high school and the equivalency classes, they might also be basic ed learners and English learners as well. So I'll go through that in just a little bit, but that kind of gives you an idea of who the adult ed learner could be. The adult education in California is managed by the California Department of Ed, specifically the Adult Education Office. They manage the California Adult Education Program, we call it CAPE, and then the federal program, which is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Title II is specific to family literacy, and many of our adult schools are funded through that. I have, on this slide, there are many different links, and we can certainly share that information with you. But those are kind of, big umbrella things that I wanted to share with you today, is that our funding really just, it comes and is managed by the California Department of Ed Adult Education Office.
Now, I have a quick question. So like
Sure.
in K-12, public education is free. Is adult education also free? So like if you do need those credits or those equivalency exams, how do they find an adult education program near them? Is it run by a school district? Is it a private entity? Are there multiple different ways to do that? So I know many people watching are like, well, how do we find one or connect with one of those entities? So is that the case? Is it free? Is it funded? How do people go about doing that?
Thank you for asking that question. That's such a great question, and it is 100% free. So I talked a little bit about that funding piece. That's that funding that comes from the state and the feds that covers all costs for the students. So just like the K-12 learner, the adult ed learner is also covered under those grants. It is a free education.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so our next big, piece is the adult education providers. And so that, kind of get a better idea of where are these adult schools located. So these adult schools can be located in a variety of different settings. So one, you have K-12 districts. So yes, you have your elementary school in the district, you have your middle school in the district, the high school, sometimes alternative education and so on. Adult schools are amongst those schools in your K-12 district. So they are considered local educational agencies, and they're amongst the K-12. If you haven't heard about them, I suggest you reaching out. You can simply just pull up your school district's website and look at the program areas that they serve. I guarantee you'll find an adult education department on that website.
Excellent.
In addition to K-12 districts, or we call them LEAs, the local educational agencies, our adult education programs are also located at community college districts. And they're non-credit community college districts that are funded through the same grants. And you can find those programs within the community college districts non-credit. You have adult programs in libraries. There are adult programs in nonprofit agencies, faith-based organizations, community-based organizations. Sometimes migrant education facilities also have adult education programs, along with corrections in our jails and in our prisons. There are many different programs throughout the state of California that are funded through these grants to provide education in those areas that I told you about, the high school diploma, the basic ed, and so on. So that's our transition right there, is to what are those program areas. So I talked a little bit about high school diploma, and I talked a little bit about equivalency, but there's several programs within adult ed. And so because we're funded through the state and the federal government, there is some programs that are covered through the state and some that are covered with the feds. The state programs are covered with both state and federal dollars. The federal dollars are only very specific to a couple of different program areas. So I'll go through that with you. For our state programs, we do adult basic and secondary education. So we talked about secondary education for a bit. That's that high school diploma and equivalency. Basic ed is those students that maybe their math, maybe their English, their writing skills still need to be brushed up. So they come to adult education to learn more, prep more, so that they can transition to bigger and better things. Second language and citizenship. So English as a second language is a really big program in California. I don't know if you know this, it's one of the largest programs in California. So just like you have your ELL learners in your K-12, we have ESL learners, English as a second language. That's a big program, like I said, in California. And so that is also covered through the state grant, along with citizenship courses as well. In adult education, you can find career technical education programs as well. And that means when students are not necessarily ready or not interested to go into a community college and get a higher degree, and they want to learn a trade, and that trade is going to be along the lines of, could be healthcare, could be early childhood education, it could be manufacturing, welding, and so on. So those programs could be housed at different adult schools throughout our state. The next one is workforce reentry. So many of our programs can offer a specific training programs for individuals that are currently in jobs or lost a job, and they need additional assistance to learn and get back into the workforce. And then training to support child school success, That's what we're here. We're here to support our children, right? These adult learners are here to learn more and support their children, the children that are in your K-12 classrooms. And then adults with disabilities. So some resources are still available for adults with disabilities. Not, the same as far as the district is concerned when it comes to special education. These are additional resources that adult schools can access to serve those students that identify with a disability. And then pre-apprenticeship. Under the federal grant, there are only 3 basic programs that are covered. I say only, but there are the bigger programs in our state, and that's English as a second language, secondary education, which is the high school diploma equivalency, and then that basic education, that math, reading. Think when I say basic education, think about math, reading, writing, those skills that they need to brush up on to move on to those bigger and better things.
I'm going to stop you right there really quick because, I really love the way that you explained this, because in my mind, adult education was primarily, getting that high school equivalent certification, right? Possibly to move on to city college or university. I didn't equate adult education to adults who may not want to go to community college, but they want to have like an upskill. They want to make sure that they have some skills that they can go and take to the workforce right away, but not go through that community college path or the university path. And I wasn't thinking that adult education covered that. And it looks here like it is, especially when I see CTE, college and technical career and technical education, because instantly when I see that, I'm thinking, that you can easily go into coding right there. I remember reading an article back in 2018 where they were taking coal miners who had lost their jobs, and they put them through a free program on training them how to code, and they would get them jobs as coders. And I'm like, that's fantastic. I wish more areas would do something like that. And it looks like adult education here in California has opportunities like that. People just need to be made aware of them in order for them to take advantage of it, right?
That is so true, Joe. That is one of the issues, right? Is that we don't know about our adult education programs throughout our state. The one thing that I will catch myself on is I know I told you that adult education is 100% free, but those career and technical ed courses are not. But they're incredibly discounted for the community. So depending on the program and the area, there might be a nominal fee, and that fee is just depending on the trade that you're going into, it might just be to cover uniforms or books or something very nominal. It's not to make profit of or anything like that. It is really just to cover those expenses. But everything else, as far as programs are concerned, there are free across the board, and hopefully we're headed towards more free resources, including those CTE courses as well.
That's amazing.
When in my before OTAN, I was also an educator in the classroom, and I was very lucky enough to spend time as an ESL instructor and a high school diploma instructor and many other courses that I taught over the years. But those are some of the, we had a welding course, and some of the graduates or the completers of that course got jobs with Tesla, and they made over $80 an hour. They graduated with their high school diploma, came into adult education to do that career tech ed in welding, and then got jobs in the trade. And so they're very successful programs through our state. Absolutely.
And I just love the idea that there's multiple pathways to a career.
Yes.
Right. There's multiple pathways to a career, and you take where your joy takes you, right? And if you love building and you think that like welding, for example, you think welding is fun and exciting, you get to build and create and can turn that into a career, and you don't have to go to college for it. I say more power to you to go after that. But just like we said before, making people aware that these opportunities exist and these programs are in your community, that's absolutely key. And I think one of the big takeaways I'm getting from this is letting our K-12 educators know that these opportunities exist, so they can then relay that to their students. Just to let them know. We're telling them about college all the time. We tell them about community college all the time, but also telling them, hey, that, there's these opportunities at the adult ed, right? And again, maybe it may have a nominal fee, but you can learn this trade and get a job instantly. that's an option. I think that's key to be able to share this out to the education community.
It's definitely a bonus, and like I said, I mean they are very popular throughout our state. The programs are, we have programs in Southern California that are doing amazing work when it comes to construction, others in cosmetology. The Central Valley has a very strong healthcare as far as like medical billing and coding and other business related courses. And some of our students that graduate with a high school diploma, and they may be English language learners that reach the advanced level, and they decide I'd really love to get into more like admin assistant work, or do some clerical work and kind of get my feet wet and get before I get ready for that job that I'm seeking. We have adult education programs have trainings for that, so it starts with a very, very basic to in-depth industry specific traits as well.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
We love it. We love adult ed. Can you tell?
I can tell, absolutely.
So I did put some information as far as data is concerned on this slide as well. We do, just like you have in K-12 dashboard, and I know it very well because I wrote my master's thesis on special education and including those with adult ed. So I spent a lot of time on the dashboard. Nevertheless, for adult ed, we have something called Launchboard, and Launchboard has some data for adult education as well. So it kind of gives you an idea of how many adult learners are in our state. And these are actually, to us, they're considered kind of low numbers in 2021 and 1920. In the past, even prior to that, we've had anywhere close to 800, 900,000 students, active students in adult education in our state. But we are looking at for 2020-21 is our last. We haven't finished up our data sets just yet to get some new numbers. But you can see that we're close to 500,000 students through our state. And again, considering the COVID and pandemic issues that everybody kind of suffered over the last, several years, can't say months anymore. So, we do have a large number of adult learners in our classrooms, and now they're utilizing those resources that we're having online. And so just like you and having to pivot to online instruction, we had to do that with our adult students as well, because they wanted to continue learning even if they couldn't leave their homes or leave their families. Now, remember, our adult school, our adult ed students are our parents, right? So childcare, transportation are issues, are basic issues. So a lot of the time, these online programs are really beneficial to reach all of our students. So we're hoping that we provide more of those programs in our adult schools, so that we can continue to serve more students throughout our state.
Yeah, I would say, like during the pandemic, these new ways of reaching our students, right, created avenues that, while some people may be like, I like face to face, still benefited many families by having the flexibility of still learning, but not having to overcome all the hardships that would normally have to take in order to learn. Like you were talking about childcare, or getting their children fed before going off to their night class or something, being able to do all of that at home and still gain that information. I think that is an absolute benefit. And so I love hearing that you're looking at ways at continuing that all the way through.
Absolutely. Yes, we are, and we get that, drive, and we get that push from our, the California Department of Ed, and the Adult Education Office. So just to kind of briefly, how does OTAN relate to adult ed, and how are we, mixed? Well, we are hired by the California Department of Education. We're considered a state leadership project, and we're one of 3. So I put on the slide CalPro and CASAS. Those are not names that you necessarily need to memorize or anything like that, but I did want to kind of give you an idea of, there are multiple projects throughout our state that are here to support our adult educators throughout our state. So CalPro is very offering a variety of different resources and trainings to help support the teacher and teacher training, along with CASAS being our data and accountability folks, because we are federally funded, we are state funded, so we have to show data to continue our funding. And then OTAN, like I told you before, OTAN is your ed tech friend, your ed technology friends, along with finding many different resources and tools, digital tools to help our teachers reach more students. Our teachers not only reach more students, but also teach their students technology, digital tools to help support them, not only in their day-to-day life, but also beyond that, right? To get that job really is the ultimate focus, to better their lives, their students' lives. So the state leadership projects are here to support adult ed in our state, and OTAN is very specific. Our mission, or I should say our vision, is we're the leaders. We're leading technology through the support for and the effective application of technology. So that's when you see your OTAN friends at the CUE conference or at many different sessions, that's what we do. Hopefully that kind of teaches you a little bit about OTAN. And I don't know if we can do this, Joe, but if you can add the OTAN link to the chat so that folks can access that, that would be wonderful. That way they can utilize anything on the OTAN website. Because we're federally funded, folks, we have created resources, many different resources throughout our website, and they're free. They're free, from lesson plans to videos to digital, we have digital videos on digital tools for folks to use. So if there's something you find that you can utilize and benefit from, take it. It's there for you. It's free to use for everyone.
Yeah, we'll definitely add the OTAN website to our show notes. People can click on it. It'll also be in, if you're watching this on Twitter, it's right there in the link. Same thing if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, it'll live right there. Just click on the link and take a look. Neda, I want you to also, I want to invite you actually to join the CUE portal, right? So the community portal, and in that membership forum, I would love for you to start a thread on exactly what we talked about, what adult education is, and is there any educators out there who have taught in adult ed, and start that conversation there, because I believe, again, this is something that K-12 educators know exists, but they don't know all that it entails. They don't know all the different types of programs that are offered through adult education. And, and if they don't know what's offered, they can't then relay that to their students, their 11th, 12th grade students who don't quite want to go to college, right? But they don't want to work at like a fast food restaurant. They want to do something with their career. This is a way for them to do that. And so I think making educators aware of those opportunities can really benefit, I think, everybody involved, right?
Absolutely. And I'm way ahead of you. I am going to add that to the community forum so that not only adult educators join that forum, but also all educators join us, where I'm going to put a lot of this information that we've learned today, or that I was able to share with you today, and so that you can ask questions, and so we could develop this friendship, our partnership, even further. Thank you so much for, having me today, and hopefully we can have a part 2 so I can kind of dive deeper into what OTAN does and see if there's others that are, interested in utilizing some of what the website has to offer.
Excellent. Well, Neda, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing the power of adult education. Thank you for sharing the resources OTAN has available. And just thank you so much for reaching out to me and saying, Joe, we need more adult ed opportunities at our conferences. And I want you, Neda, to know, again, we have that fall CUE coming up. And so let your, fellow OTAN members know that's coming. And if they're doing amazing things in adult ed, we would love to see those submissions so that we can promote adult education at our conferences.
Will do. And Joe, can I just challenge all of our viewers to find their local adult school? At the very least, go to your district's website and see if you even have an adult school agency. And then when I'm at fall CUE and you've seen this share out, please stop me and let's chat a little bit more about, how we can develop our friendship and our partnership further.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And just thank you for all that you do for educators all across California.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. I am so just happy that Neda reached out to me and said, you know what, we need to discuss this. We need to showcase this because it is a very important topic. And, you know, some people would say, well, you know, can't you just translate what we, you know, some session that is, you know, in the conference from one thing to adult ed? Anybody can do that. Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, if you're a high school teacher, you know, it's not going to necessarily what you teach and the way you teach isn't necessarily going to translate to a kindergarten, right? So why would you think what you're doing is going to translate to adults who've already lived a life and they're trying to better that life through adult education? You know, it's different. And we'd love to make sure that we're covering all of our bases in education. And I think Neda is right. We need to make sure adult education sessions are at our conferences. So if you're watching and you are an adult education teacher, I would love for you to put in specifically a session on adult education. And again, don't forget, you know, I said it already, but I'm going to say it again because people always ask. Yes, presenter submissions are still open for Fall CUE. They will be open till July 18th. Go to cuelearns.org and submit your session today because you said me? Yes, we want you to present at Fall CUE and beyond. So if you're probably watching this either on your last week of school or the week after your last week of school. So just, you know, after you watch this, take a break, just relax, watch a relaxing show with your family and take care of yourself because it's been a long couple of years and you deserve the rest coming towards you. So as always, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for choosing the most important job in the history of the world, and that is being an educator. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day.